Titanfall 2 shouldn't have died. When people talk about this game, there's a certain reverence, respect, and even sadness in their voice. The game came out nearly 10 years ago, but since Apex's release, I feel like the discussion around Titanfall 2 has perked up. Anyways, I play a lot of Apex Legends, but I want to go back in time to Titanfall 2 to see what the hype is all about. Does it still hold up today? Did it really fail? And how does it compare to Apex Legends? You got some opinions. It didn't seem like the remaining Titanfall 2 players were too pleased about Apex's existence. And honestly, I can sort of understand why. Back in October 28th of 2016, Respawn released Titanfall 2, a project they were working on for a couple of years as a sequel to the original Titanfall, which came out in 2014. I remember picking up the game myself 8 years ago and really enjoying both the single player campaign and the multiplayer experience. But sadly, Titanfall 2's life cycle was off to a rough time from the very beginning. You see, it was released right between Battlefield 1, which came out on October 21st, and Call of Duty Infinite Warfare, which came out November 4th. Sandwiched between these two Goliath blockbuster titles, I can't imagine that it helped interest in sales with Respawn's offering. I also remember, back during that era, the common gamer sentiment was they actually disliked space movement shooters. In fact, I distinctly remember people wanting a boots on the ground shooter, which is partly why Infinite Warfare got so much hate back in the day. And of course, well, Titanfall 2 is very space and very movement. But as the years went on, appreciation for Titanfall 2 started to surface and people were hankering for a Titanfall 3. But instead, in 2019, we got Apex Legends, a battle royale based in the Titanfall universe, but not Titanfall 3. Just kidding, Apex is seriously a vibe, and honestly, a smart move from Respawn given the battle royale genre was all the rage during that time. But it has been confirmed that Titanfall 3 was in development for 10 months before being scrapped for Apex, with ex-Respawn dev Muhammad Alavi stating that we literally canceled Titanfall 3 ourselves because we were like, we can make this game and it's gonna be Titanfall 2 plus a little bit better, or we can make this thing, which is clearly amazing. Looking back at Titanfall 2, something everyone talks about is how amazing the single player campaign is. And since it's been a while since I last played it, I knew that that was the first thing I wanted to revisit.
Here we go.
I start the story off as Rifleman Jack Cooper, and pilot Ty Lastimosa has taken me under his wing, a mentor of sorts, because he sees potential in me.
In you, I see potential.
I go through the necessary tutorial that gets one familiar with the basic controls and movement of Titanfall 2, and boy, there's a lot of movement in Titanfall 2.
Time to hit the
What's the DMR? Is that longbow? Spitty, alternate, that's cool. Even the sights look different. This longbow. Oh my god, they shoot so fast. But of course, the training is interrupted because war. The IMC, the big bads of this universe, have sent down some specters for me to fight, but I eventually get wrecked by an enemy Titan. I'm saved by Lastimosa and his Titan, BT. Sadly though, an enemy mercenary group called the Apex Predators come along and give Lastimosa a pokey poke in the back. No! Dude, this part, that part emotionally gets me. Of course, I am introduced to Blisk, who will later run the Apex games, and of course, my favorite Titanfall 2 villain, Ricta. That's how he says it in the game, so I'm not putting on a weird voice for no reason. Lastimosa dies, which is pretty sad. Definitely dead. But in his dying breaths, transfers his ownership of his Titan BT to me. The rest of the mission is infiltrating some crashed ships to get not one, but 2 batteries to restore BT. It is riddled with prowlers and IMC infantry, but honestly, as someone who plays quite a bit of Apex, it wasn't a huge problem, especially since I was using guns that I was already familiar with. It is pretty funny seeing old variants of Apex guns in Titanfall 2, because even though a lot of them may look and sound the same, many are quite different from their Apex counterparts. After a bit, I do end up finding both batteries needed to start up BT again. TF2 makes piloting Titans really fun in a campaign. The sound effects, lurchy movement, and map design makes it feel like you really are in a big, hulking metal robot, while still making it easily traversable so you don't get stuck anywhere. The actual embark animations for this game are also incredible, with the cockpit screen loading sequence honestly so ahead of its time. They really don't make games like this anymore. One thing about Titanfall 2 that really impressed me as an Apex player was the movement. It just feels so intuitive in TF2. Even in a close quarters indoor scenario, there was still plenty of room room for wall running, double jumping, and because I could do all that while shooting, throwing grenades, and using abilities, it really made me feel like that anime protagonist. And I'm just effortlessly destroying hordes of grunts, which I guess is what a pilot is supposed to be anyways. This is Kane, who is the first Apex Predator mercenary I ran into in the story, and
that's why you're dead. Well. So I got word that there's some Vanguard-class Titan and an SRS pilot taking out my IMC support. Whoever you are. Not bad at all, my friend. I just hope you're better than the last one.
he's an interesting guy. His mannerisms remind me of Handsome Jack from the Borderlands series. As a longtime Apex player, while the weapons were all pretty familiar, is the Mozambique any good in this game? Oh, wow, okay. Okay. The map and level design were not. This game is gorgeous, and the campaign maps are some of the most memorable I've played ever. Oh. No! Bro. Like, take for example, Ash's Hell Factory, which is this labyrinth of moving conveyor belts that had these sets and mock-ups of houses and people, all meant for the purpose of running simulations. Speaking of simulations, I eventually found myself in the Simulation Dome, where I was tasked with fighting off waves of IMC infantry and specters. I did end up losing all of the militia prisoners that were part of the experiment, but I eventually made it out through a hole in the dome.
The IMC infantry clearly lack your resolve. Perhaps I have no choice but to step in personally.
Oh, mummy. I get reunited with BT, and we find ourselves up against Ashley herself, who later makes her own appearance in Apex Legends.
Dead or alive, that makes you worth something to me.
Mommy. Mommy. The Respawn devs were really cooking with Titanfall 2 because it felt like while the campaign was pretty short, each map was perfectly crafted and you could just feel that a lot of heart and soul went into them. Take the next mission, Effect and Cause, for example, where I found that Major Anderson had a bit of an oopsie.
Hey, what's up, buddy?
Split in two due to time shifting through a floor. Yeah, that's right, there is time shifting in this level. This part is easily the most memorable level of any campaign I've played in an FPS. Due to this lab's experimentation with time travel distortion in an attempt to build a plan destroyer called the Fold Weapon, I was constantly shifting through the past and present version of this facility. And eventually, I found Anderson's arm to be able to control the rifts in time, so I'm literally playing through two different maps at the same time. Dodging enemies in one timeline only to reappear behind them when you rift back, it gave such an awesome feeling of teleporting, especially when I hear the IMC's reaction to my movement.
What the hell? How do we get over there? Initiating contact with the intruder, but his movement is erratic.
As if I'm some sort of supernatural beast. At some points, I'm fighting IMC security from the past, then I'm fighting a horde of prowlers in the present, only to escape back into the past to fight back the IMC.
Light work, no reaction.
Other times, the time travel helps with navigating the actual facility, like here where I zipped between the past and the present to bounce between platforms that don't actually exist in both. Oh, that's my favorite part. Ready? Here we go. Oh. So cool. So cool. Honestly, this whole mission was amazing. There's also this really awesome sequence where the fold is tested, and I got to experience this amazing frozen in time sequence before scanning the art. I'm just getting like chills just from like playing this again. That is so freaking cool. Which was this alien tech that powered the fold itself. The next step was to get in contact with the rest of the militia to warn them of the IMC's plot to use the fold to destroy Harmony, the home planet of the Resistance, which meant going to a beacon to try to send the signal. The beacon, of course, wasn't functional, so that meant I had to retrieve an arc tool deep in a power facility substation from a very sad Marvin. I'm sorry. The level of fixing the actual dish itself was pretty awesome as well, with a very iconic throw scene between BT and I.
You sure about this?
There is a 68% chance.
68% chance.
Wind, 3 knots, heading 274. Range, 95 meters. Projectile mass, 89 kilograms.
Oh boy.
Trust me,
Trust me. Now, of course, the Apex Predators by this point have kind of caught up to my shenanigans. This is Richter.
Care to have a real fight? Let's see what you got up close and personal. Oder willst du weglaufen, ihr kleiner Junge?
So cool. And it wasn't long before I got to face Richter in a 1v1, who's honestly such a badass. Execute. Hiya! Wait, where's Richter? Now, the rest of the game basically consists of the entire militia trying to hunt down the Ark before it made it to the fold. There is this amazing sequence where I'm loaded up into BT and get to experience a first-hand Titanfall, which lands us all in the outskirts of an airbase. This is one of the coolest missions. It's just like kind of like storming a base.
Free fire!
So awesome. Let's go! There's a sort of D-Day-esque sequence where the militia storms the defenses of the airbase with me. And honestly, while I do prefer pilot combat, this mission was actually mostly Titan combat, which I didn't mind. While pilot combat felt much more like stealth and covert because I'm always alone, Titan combat in this mission felt much more like a big battle, with me and my Titan along with our Titan pals versus the enemy with their Titan pals. Respawn really did a good job at making this map have a completely different feel. Of course, by the time BT and I made it to the dock, the IMC manages to escape with the Ark on the Draconis, which is that big old thing right there. The next mission involves chasing down the Draconis with another throwing sequence. It's funny playing through it because I could see so many things here in Titanfall that would eventually have references in Apex, like Davis and Draws, who are pilots of the 6-4 who helped me in this mission. Draws, it turns out, is Mirage's uncle, as it was revealed in an Easter egg hidden recording.
Everyone kept telling me I'm dying, except Uncle Droz. Miss my brother. And Davis. Oh, they always made me laugh. Like Elliot.
It was also pretty cool fighting alongside the other pilots, and there was this awesome sequence where the 6-4 basically breached the control room of ship, taking out the IMC infantry effortlessly. Damn. Damn. I also came across Viper, who, as you guys know, is Valkyrie's dad. Viper definitely was pretty unique as the only flying Titan. And of course, as someone who enjoys Apex and its lore, taking him down felt pretty bad. Sorry, Valkyrie.
Board the Draconis and secure the Ark. We'll prep for transfer.
Jesus Christ. But it turned out he wasn't dead and nearly kills me and BT. The scuffle ends up with Viper's hatch opening up, and I was able to get him off BT by, well... Oh. Okay. I felt bad about that one. I felt a little bit bad about that one. Eventually, we were able to board the Draconis and nab the Ark, but the ship itself was going down, and BT makes this really touching effort to save me.
What are you doing?
Protocol 3. I will not lose another pilot.
No, that's so sad. That's so sad. And of course, we get jumped by Blisk and Sloan. Something I will say is Respawn really nailed not only the story itself, but the delivery of it. The tension and the helplessness of the situation was really engrossing. I thought you said it was unstable. Jesus.
Nice try, love.
I thought you said it was unstable. To escape the burning ship, I grabbed BT's eyepiece as well as a seer kit, which is a box with a data knife and of course, the legendary Smart Pistol. Hilariously enough, the Smart Pistol does make an appearance in Apex Legends as Ballistic's tactical ability. And holy cow, is this thing busted. It definitely made the rest of the map way easy, but I understand a lot of it was for storytelling and really for the feel of just mowing down hordes of enemies effortlessly.
Just keep
This is cool. This is so satisfying. Why can't we just do this like for the whole game? Luckily for BT, there was an extra chassis lying around for him, so after installing his eyepiece, we were well on our way to track down the Ark once again. I eventually come across Sloan, who... Wait. I couldn't execute. Now, sadly, 8 years later, I don't think Sloan ever made an appearance or was referenced again in Apex Legends, but we'll have to see. Bliss makes an appearance again after the fold fries BT a little bit, but he opts not to kill me. Nice guy, Blisk, and gives me one of his fancy pants business cards. He just prints those out. Of course, BT realizes the only way to save everyone was to sacrifice himself by throwing himself at the Ark.
Protocol 3. Protect the pilot.
BT, what are you doing?
Oh,
Trust
snap.
me.
BT!
No!
Cooper, we just lost BT signal. We're almost there.
That's so sad.
I'm marking your hunt with the coordinates.
I make my escape through a bunch of floating rocks as everything starts to collapse, and the IMC planet Typhon is destroyed in the explosion, and well, the credit rolls.
BT.
That's so sad. No.
I don't know what that'll feel like to get assigned a new Titan. I kinda like the old one.
Kind of. But BT's still there. BT's still there. Somewhere. Dude. Round of applause, dude. I gotta pee. Oh, and at the very end, wow, what an experience. But that was just the campaign. The thing that a lot of people still hop on Titanfall 2 for is the multiplayer. Now the game, and more specifically multiplayer, has been targeted by numerous hackers over the years, but I won't be covering too much of that in this video. Fighting a match actually wasn't that bad considering the game is pretty much on life support. But I think it's also because the lobbies don't have to be that big to fill. It's actually pretty interesting because while the game was originally released on the EA app, it's also on Steam now. And according to Steam charts, it gets around a max of 2,000 concurrents playing it every day. My good pal and Apex duo Boom decided to join me on this. How hard could it be, right? Of course, we were greeted with a very familiar face. Kuben Blisk! Two Apex veterans like us could surely hold our own in Titanfall.
I'm doing my anti-Titan loadout.
Can you tap strafe? Oh. Charge up. God. Oh, listen, there's a lot of Titans here. I'm just kind of by myself. Oh, I'm dead.
Instantly dying. They just shit on me.
Please, one more shot. Dang it, find me one-on-one, bro. Yeah, everyone who's left playing Titanfall 2 is amazing at Titanfall 2. And honestly, I should have saw this coming because this is exactly what happens when a game dies and the player base shrinks until it is the most dedicated that are left playing it. The last time I really played multiplayer, honestly, I don't even remember, but it must have been back in 2016 or 2017 when the game first came out. Cloak. Apex Legends sends its regards. This Zistro guy's lit. I don't even know what I'm looking at. Anyways, actually playing multiplayer against folks who've never left was, well, shall we say, an experience. I think while the campaign did a good job of making you feel like you're some invincible, wall-running and gunning ninja, the multiplayer kind of brings you back down to reality, and you see what a real pilot looks like. That's friendly. Do you think that Titanfall 3 would do well, like honestly, in today's climate?
Yeah, I think Titanfall 3 would do great, but I don't think any studios would gamble on it.
Now, at the beginning, Boom and I opted for attrition, which includes Titan gameplay. We were able to play the game during the beginning pilot-only phase, but once everyone started spawning in Titans, we truly had no chance. After a bit, I decided to hop back in and try to queue only for pilot v pilot gameplay. My logic is, well, I'm definitely still rusty in Titanfall, and I'm getting destroyed in Titan combat, so I may as well lead into my Apex roots with infantry combat.
Excellent work, everyone. Earned your pay.
The interesting thing about Titanfall 2 multiplayer is that you can see all the things that would eventually make their way into Apex. From things like fire stars and gravity stars to the abilities that eventually became legend abilities, and of course the weaponry. It was just this weird feeling of playing a familiar game, yet still different from what I'm used to with Apex. I'm glad I went back to visit Titanfall 2, and I feel like it was a game that was just made in the wrong time. Literally, even to this day, the graphics hold up incredibly beautifully, and you can really tell both in the single player campaign and the multiplayer player how much heart and soul was poured into it. I'm glad we eventually got Apex Legends as a spin-off, and I definitely think it was the wiser move over a Titanfall 3 given the BR craze, but now that things have settled back down, I wouldn't mind it if Respawn considered making another Titanfall game.